Good afternoon, Mr. Anderson. How are you today?
Fine, thank you.
Yes, thank you so much for joining us today.
you.
We're very grateful that you
I'm
took the time.
very honored to be here.
Thank you. We, the Leadership Morgan Hill, class of 2010, has chosen you as one of the key residents of Morgan Hill, one of the folks who have contributed to the development of this wonderful city. And we'd like to take some time to ask you some questions about who you are, how you got here, and how the city developed around you, and how you helped that development. Does that sound reasonable?
Yes?
Yes? Okay, good. Good. So I'm going to go through a list of questions,
Okay.
but at any time, if you want to go into it in another direction, we'll go in that direction as well. So relax, have some water. Tell us your full name, Mr. Anderson.
Edward Frank Enderson.
Edward Frank Anderson. And you spell Anderson with an E, instead of an A. Why is that?
Well, that's the way it's been for years. That's the way my dad's name was and my name.
And your family originated from
Yeah.
England, I understand, that side of the family.
Yeah, my dad's name was Edward Edwin Enderson.
Anderson. Okay,
Yeah.
good,
And
very
my
good.
grandmother and grandfather also were Endersons.
And your mother? What was her
And
name?
my mother, she's Rose Cecilia Desmoni.
Rose Cecilia
Yeah,
Desmoni.
she was full-blooded Italian.
Italian. And I understand she was from a small island off of Sicily, correct?
Ustica, yeah.
Ustica, okay, good. Well, let's see how all of that England and Sicily came together and to Morgan Hill. Let's see how that goes. All right. So what brought you to Morgan Hill, and when was that?
Well, I was born at Morgan Hill when I was born here.
You were born in Morgan Hill. Okay, good.
Yeah, a little house off of August Road.
So you were born at home.
Yeah, by a doctor by the name of Dr. Newbold. And he came out to the house, and I was born out there. And then my brother also was born out there on August Road. Right now, the road that we were born on is Enderson Court, right now.
Named after
Yeah.
your family's name. Very nice. And how many siblings do you have? Just one?
Yes.
One sibling. How did your family arrive to Morgan Hill from England and Italy? How
Well,
does
my
that path go?
grandmother and grandfather on my mother's side, it was Frank Desmoni and Cecilia Desmoni. They came from this island, Ustica,
Ustica, yes.
Ustica, yeah. And they went through Ellis Island and came into New Orleans. And the family was in New Orleans, and most of the children were born up there. And then for some reason, I don't know why, but they moved down to San Jose and lived on South 8th Street for many years. And my uncles were in the grocery business, and my mother worked for the American Can Company in San Jose, and my uncle Felix, he was the oldest brother. He was in a fish market on Post Street in San Jose.
Downtown.
And my Aunt Nina married a Dr. LaSpada, and he was a doctor, and he also lived at the house there. And it was quite a big house. And my Aunt Nina used to do the cooking and everything, and my uncles and everything, they used to eat at the table and have their glass of wine during their dinners and everything.
Do you know when they came to California from New Orleans? Roughly?
Not exactly. No, I don't know the date. I have the Ellis Island certificate.
Yeah, when they came through?
Yeah,
Oh, good.
when they came over here, yeah.
So you think that might have been at the turn of the century, possibly?
Probably,
Possibly.
yes.
Yeah, we'd love to see it at some point.
Okay.
That would be wonderful.
Yeah.
So then they came to San Jose, they settled downtown San Jose.
Yeah.
And I understand your father ran the trolley.
Yeah, trolley in San Jose. And my father was married, before he married my mother, he had 2 daughters. One was Edna, she was the youngest, and Marguerite was the oldest daughter. They were my half-sisters.
And where did they live?
They lived in San Jose. One lived off of King Road up in San Jose, Marguerite did. And Edna, she's in Crockett right now. She lives in Crockett, and she's, I believe she's 95 or 96.
You keep in touch with her?
Yes.
You do?
And she has 5 daughters.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
I keep in contact with them also.
Do you want us to invite her to the event here? I think it would be nice.
Well,
We could invite her, whether she could come
I
or
don't
not.
know whether they can or not,
But we can still invite her.
because I have my 2 nieces that, on my brother's side.
Okay. Well, you
They
can
want to come.
Oh, good, good, good.
And neither one of, they're both Endersons, and neither one of them are married.
Good. We'd love to have them. Okay, good. So, what year were you born?
1923.
1923.
Yeah.
Okay.
June 15th.
June 15th, 1923. You just had a birthday.
Yes, I did.
Just a couple weeks ago.
Yeah. 87.
87, yes. What? Tell us a story about growing up in Morgan Hill. What was it like for you?
Well, it was fine. I grew up. I went to school, the grammar school that they recently moved out to Logos Road.
Machado? Machado?
No. It was the grammar school that was on the corner of Dunn Avenue.
Right on,
Yeah,
down in Monterey?
Yeah. My brother was 2 years younger than I am, and he didn't want to go to school when I went to school, so they waited until he was about 6 years old, and then went to school up in San Jose, up there by IBM. I got a picture of the school and everything at home, and I don't remember the name. And my brother and I both went to school up there, and then when we moved, my dad worked at Ozier's out on East Foothills, and that was out at halfway from here to San Jose, and then they moved back to Morgan Hill on the ranch, and where I was born, and they lived there for quite a while until in 1937 we had that big storm, and we had a prune orchard. We had 24 acres on the home ranch, and the storm in 1937 blew all the prune trees down on the ranch, and we propped them all up, and it blew and we had a 2-story house on the ranch, and it blew the roof off, and we had to move over to my uncle's home on right next door, and we lived in there until they built the house in 1938 and finished it. One of the neighbors and my dad and another friend built the house. They built the house, yeah.
Okay. And go back to the school for a minute. Then I want to come back and talk about the ranch.
Oh.
Go back. So you went to school at
the grammar school in Morgan Hill. I went to, when we moved back from San Jose to Morgan Hill, I went to the Grange Hall. I went to school there.
On 3rd Street?
Yeah.
Yes.
And then from there, after that, we moved back to the grammar school.
Okay.
And I went to school there, and I remember the teachers, Mrs. Rodine, Mrs. Sharp, was first grade, Mrs. Rodine second grade, Mrs. Durfee third grade.
Oh my gosh.
And Mrs. Allward fourth grade, Mrs. Ritchie fifth grade, and Mrs. I forget her first name now. She was my favorite teacher in the sixth grade. And then Mr. Mayer was principal at the time.
Okay. Now let's go back to the ranch. So what was it like growing up at the ranch? What did you do? Did you work at the ranch? Was it a prune ranch? Is that what it was?
Yeah, I helped my dad on the ranch quite a bit. And then and when I was 13 years old, I worked for Gus Walsh in Madrone on a prune ranch. And I was making 20 cents an hour.
What did you do? What kind of work did you do?
Prune trees, shaking prune trees and different things. And then from there, my dad and I worked up for the Jacksons, and the Jackson Ranch up on below Cove Park.
Yeah, yes.
The Jackson area there.
Yes.
And they had a cattle ranch, and then they had an orchard up on the hill where my dad and I pruned trees and sprayed orchards and did prunes and lift prune sacks and all that. Spread prunes out in the flat part of the ranch before the dam was put in.
Did your brother work with you as well?
No, my brother was in high school and he was a banker.
Oh, so he went
and he worked for the Bank of America in Morgan Hill. My brother did.
Okay. So, and you stayed with your family
stayed with my dad,
to help out. What was your mother doing at that time?
Mother just was a housekeeper at home.
Doing housework. Okay. So your family helped keep the county healthy, keep the area healthy with prunes, right?
Yeah.
Keep everybody healthy.
When my dad was, when we first moved to the ranch, there was a ranch on the west side. It was the Osiers, and they used to raise hogs. And my dad used to help him with the hogs and everything.
Now the ranch was a working ranch up until when?
The one I lived on when that was up until I believe it was 1979.
So, and what happened at that point?
In 1979, I sold the ranch to Roger Knopf, Kozeski, and the bookkeeper that was in Morgan Hill. I can't think of his name now.
Okay, that's okay. That's all right. So you sold the ranch.
Yeah, to three buyers.
Okay,
and they had they were going to they had 18 lots, and they couldn't put them on Murphy's Peak, so they had to put the 18 lots on the ranch.
Okay, is that their homes now? They built homes?
Yeah.
Okay. Go back to being a young man in Morgan Hill. What else did you do besides work and go to school? Run around?
Well, yeah, mostly.
What kind of running around did you do?
Just didn't have too much time to do any running around, actually. Working, yeah. Okay. I worked for Vic Radju in Madrone for 22 years until they sold the place and moved up to University Avenue up in San Jose. And then I painted their house, and I used to paint. I painted in San Jose for them, you know, the whole house and everything.
Where does that strong work ethic come from that you have?
I don't know, just...
Family?
Yeah, I held down 2 jobs when I was working at the theater, when I had the theater.
Okay, we're going to get to the theater in a minute. So the strong work, your mom and dad were hard workers, your whole family.
My mom couldn't work much.
She kept the house.
Just my dad, yeah.
Okay, and then
he worked on the ranch and worked the ground, and I helped him. And
Now, when you were growing up in Morgan Hill, did you travel to San Jose, or did you stay in Morgan Hill primarily?
I stayed in Morgan Hill, yeah.
Working?
Yeah.
Working. Did you enjoy that kind of work?
Yeah.
Yeah. Became part of you?
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you miss it?
No, I don't.
No.
My wife misses it, but I didn't miss it.
You didn't miss it. Yeah.
We retired, you mean? Or, yeah, we
mhm.
retired in 1976
Why do you think she missed it?
because she was in the box office at the theater all the time,
Oh, okay.
and she enjoyed that
She enjoyed.
very
Well,
much.
let's jump to the theater since we're talking about the theater. Tell me the story of the Granada Theater from your perspective.
Well, I worked at the old Granada Theater down on the block, where I believe it's a restaurant right now.
Down toward the south side of
South
Monterey?
side of Monterey Road.
Okay.
It was the old Granada Theater, and I was a projectionist in there. I forget how, in 1942, when my brother went in the Navy, took his job at the theater, and I was projectionist there for quite a while. And I worked for people by the name of Odoms. They owned the theater then, and they lived in Paradise Valley. And then Jack Hillman came in there about, I forget what year it was. It was in the 40s. And they purchased the theater from the Odoms, and I was projectionist there all the time, and they kept me on. And so I worked as projectionist there for quite a while, and Irene was a Candy Girl and usher.
Irene, your wife?
Yeah, my wife.
Were you married already?
No.
Is that how you met?
Yeah, that's when we met.
All right, let's keep going. All right.
She was working there when she was 15 years old, and Jack Hillman, the owner, told her, he said, "Honey, don't tell anybody your age. You're supposed to be 16. So, so she was Candy Girl and usher, and
you were projectionist.
and I met her there, and then we got together. I was 27, and she was 17 when we got married at the theater. And we got married in the old Catholic church in Morgan Hill downtown. It was a beautiful church they tore down. And we worked there for years. She did all the ticket sales, and I was out in the lobby most of the time with white shirt and tie on all the time, and off and on in the projection booth, and I had
Were you
people
ushering people in?
I was usher. I know, I wasn't usher. We had an usher.
Oh,
we had girls working for us at the candy counter, and also we had a projectionist of most of the projection. One was Wesley Kiles. I don't know if you know him. He doesn't have one hand, but he's a genius when it comes to doing work. He worked for us for quite a while in there, and then we had the Lua family. Marty Lua worked for us. Chris Lua was projectionist, and Jack Lua was a projectionist, and all the kids. They had 7 kids.
They all worked for you?
Yeah, they were all working for us, and we ran the theater for years.
Now, did you own the theater?
We bought the theater. Mrs. Hillman passed away. No, Jack Hillman passed away in 1955. He was the owner, and then his wife ran the theater after that. She ran it for a few years, and she got tired of it. And then in 1961, she leased it to us, Irene and I, and we ran it for 10 years. And then the lease was ready to come up, and she was going to sell the theater to a guy by the name of Levin, Ben Levin. And but when we leased the theater from her, we bought all the equipment and everything. All the equipment in the theater was ours. And then when Ben Levin come in to buy the theater from her, she couldn't sell it to him because we were the lessees and we owned everything in it. So they made a deal with us, and 1971 they bought the theater from us.
So you kept it for 10 years,
Yeah.
more or less. Yeah.
And we ran it for 10 years. And Mrs. Hillman passed away. I forget the year she passed away.
Did your nephew work in the theater with you at all?
Yes, he did, off
you work?
and on.
Yes.
Yeah,
What did he do?
a little bit of everything.
Whatever you told him to do,
Yeah.
that's what he would do. Did you enjoy that time running
Yeah.
the theater? What kind of movies did you show?
Well, our biggest popular movies were westerns.
Like, can you remember
Jerry
some?
Lewis. And,
Oh, yeah. So early 60s.
I don't remember too many
Too
of
many?
the movies, but the
Yeah.
film company was making all the money
Uh-huh.
because when we leased when we had a booker that books them in San Francisco, they booked it for the theater.
Okay. Tell me about the environment. What was going, besides showing a movie, what else was happening at the theater?
In the theater?
Yeah, was it a place
Well,
to be?
it was a
social?
it was a babysitting affair. They dropped their kids off,
Oh,
and we had problem with kids.
Oh.
Kids were making noise and everything, and we had white glass in the windows, and they'd go up and knock at the windows, and I was on the floor there, and of course I was a softie.
yeah.
And
You let them get away with things?
yeah, they always wanted to talk to Ed.
Oh, up in the projection room? You mean?
No, I was on the floor. I never was much
okay.
in the projection room.
At that point, okay.
Yeah.
All right. And before, when you were when you were the projectionist, tell us about what was going on at the theater at that point,
Well,
when you were younger.
we put on shows, stage shows at the theater, and we had Tucson, a magician, and we had Billy Graham. It was like a church in there. We packed them in, and Billy Graham was there for quite a while. And then we had Mexican dancers, Tungalele, and all of those
famous
gals
people.
on the
Yeah. She was a little risque, wasn't she? Woohoo!
We had May Day parties for the downtown Morgan Hill. And we had several of those, and they turned out real good. And
Other famous folks that came to town? Anybody else you can think of?
you mean downtown
to the theater?
theater?
To the theater, yeah.
No, we had quite a few stage shows, but I don't remember all the names of all of them.
So that was in addition to the movies?
Yes.
During the,
Because we had the stage there. And we had, in 1976, Irene and I were in the Fast Draw Club, and we had on the stage, Fast Draw, we actually shot blanks in the theater, shooting Fast Draw.
Yeah. Are you good at that?
Yeah, I was,
you were?
I got a lot of trophies.
Is that still...
It's
still
not the bounty, they was named the Bounty Hunters. No, it's not in existence anymore.
And your wife was part of that as well?
She was one of those too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's the time factor for what constitutes a fast draw?
Well, my fastest time was around 27 hundredths of a second.
Oh my gosh.
Before you can blink your eye, I could have the gun out.
What about your wife?
My wife, she was fairly fast too.
Yeah.
She outshot one of the fastest draw fellas, Gene Cazzatorto. She outdrew him one time, and he was blowing the shells from the ground instead of getting them out.
Oh, okay.
It was kind of interesting.
Yeah. Was there a lot of folks participating in this?
Yeah, yeah. We had about 27 people in the Fast Draw Club.
Fast Draw Club, like Quick Draw McGraw. Huh?
Quick Draw, and it was named the Bounty Hunters.
Oh, okay. And when did that stop?
That stopped. Oh gosh, I think it was back in 1981 or 82, somewhere around there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Was your nephew part of that at that point?
No,
at any time?
No, he was pretty young then.
Oh, little guy. Okay, and you enjoyed that. Who taught you how to draw?
Joe Barcelona.
Now, who was he?
He was a fast draw artist, and he was one of the fast draw guy, and he had a big clock, and he taught all of us how to shoot fast draw.
When did you start? How old were you when you started?
I think I was about about 35 or 40,
Oh,
somewhere around there.
okay. Your wife, obviously, at
My
that
wife,
time too.
yeah.
Okay, very good. Tell me, you've mentioned your wife several times because
Yeah.
she's part of you. Tell me about your wife. You met her at the Granada.
At the old Granada Theater,
was selling
yeah.
candy.
And then selling
Yeah.
candy, and she was usher and candy girl, and we got together and we got married in 1951, February 18th.
You miss her.
And and then we came back, and we both were working at the theater. And we were before we were working at the theater, and then for a lapse of time there was another friend of mine. His name's Keith Fletcher. He was born in Morgan Hill also. He ran the theater, and there was another owner. I forget who it was. And my wife and I worked in Larkin Valley in Watsonville on an apple orchard for my aunt, and my dad also was there with us also. I forget the time. That was in the 50s, I believe.
You did that and worked at your ranch as well?
Yeah. We drove over there every day to Larkin Valley.
Gosh.
Yeah, we did that for about a year.
And you also worked at the theater?
They raised berries there. We pruned berries, and we hired apple tree pruners, and
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. And anything else you want to tell me about your wife? Anything that
Well, my
you
wife
would like
was
to share with
my
us?
wife. I don't know what year it was. She was the president of the Chamber of Commerce in Morgan Hill for 2 years, and she was with that attorney. I think it was named Mitchell. He was a member of the Men's Chamber of Commerce, and she was in that for 2 years, and it was the Women's Chamber of Commerce.
Oh.
Yeah, Mary Pravatoni, and there was a lot of people. I don't recall the names.
So she was very involved,
Yeah,
civically
she was,
involved,
yes.
the two of you. Wonderful. Tell us a little bit, if you remember, what was the cost of living like here? I mean, how much did you need to buy a home as you were a young man, maybe in your 20s? What would it take to buy a home?
In the early, Irene and I, we lived on the ranch. We bought a home in Sunnyvale, a small home, and they sliced it in half and moved it to Morgan Hill onto my lot.
Oh.
And I did a lot of work, and then I had another contractor build also on it.
So then you pasted it back together,
Oh, yeah,
obviously?
yeah, it was.
How much did you pay for that house, do you remember?
No, I don't remember, but it wasn't very much.
A couple thousand, maybe?
Yeah,
Something like
they
that,
moved it at nighttime on a semi-truck so they wouldn't have any problems.
How big was the house?
The house was about, I don't know, about maybe 800 square feet.
Okay.
Yeah.
What about, tell us, what are some of the biggest changes you've seen in Morgan Hill? I mean, obviously we have the freeways and Morgan Hill in some ways
well,
has
that came later, but
Morgan
Morgan Hill was growing a little by little out on the east side mostly. And
growing with homes, you mean? New
homes,
residents?
new homes, and then on the west side, where I lived right now, I'm going back in history again.
Yeah, please.
I cut hay out there on Alkire Avenue with the Catholic Church and all that and everything.
Yes.
I worked for a fellow that lives up on Edmondson Avenue. His name was Bub Just Jordan. And I cut hay while I was working at the theater. And Irene would be picking me up at different places. He had patches of hay to cut, and I cut it and raked it. Paradise Valley and all over. And they told me not to get off the tractor over in by Elkhire because there was a lot of rattlesnakes in that area. So anyhow, that's where I worked also. And I just did odd and end jobs. And then when I was out of the theater business, I worked at Baird Ranch with no pay, just to have something to do, at the cattle ranch. And I did all kinds of work with cattle, herding cattle, and branding cattle, and fixing fence and all that.
Wow.
Yeah.
Stayed very, very active, didn't you?
Well, I had to. That's probably why I'm still alive today.
Yeah, you look great, and you have a wonderful memory.
You have to keep busy.
You have to keep, got to keep the body
Yeah.
well lubricated, keep going. So the biggest changes have been lots of homes, right?
Well, not a lot,
but
all the city councils always said, in the next 5 years this is going to happen, and the next 5 years, the next 5 years was mostly like that with the city councils. And so when we built when Irene and I, when we moved out of the theater, we built that, we bought that house on Elkhire Avenue.
Where you are now.
Yeah. At that time it was a high price area. It was $315,000 for the home. Yeah. At that time.
It's a gorgeous home, by the way. It's a beautiful.
Now it's assessed at $600,000 or so.
Beautiful home.
And taxes are sky high at the end of the year.
When did you move there?
In it was 21 years ago. Okay. So that'd be
whatever, 2010 minus 21 is, yeah, okay. So what, in one word, can you say what is the most significant change in Morgan Hill? In one or two words, anything come to mind?
Well, the biggest changes is the housing, the city building the culture center out there and everything, and building the downtown area, and all that improvement. And
biggest change. Okay. Anything that you wish had happened in the city that didn't?
Well, what happened in the city now?
Yeah, that you feel comfortable talking to us about in public.
I don't. I'm sort of attached to the Granada Theater, looking downtown. It wouldn't look good without the Granada standing there. Or, you know, it's a well-built building, in my opinion, because an engineer built it. He was an engineer, Jack Hillman. And when it was built in it started to be built in 1950 when they tore down the Live Oak High School in 1950 also. And then they used some of the timbers from the old Live Oak High School they tore down in the Granada Theater at different places. And in 1951 and 1952, the Live Oak was being built at the same time as the Granada Theater was.
The Live Oak that we have now.
Yes, that's the new Live Oak, yeah. And I have pictures at home, old pictures when the theater was just a building just starting to be built.
So you wish we could have kept it up? Is that what? I don't want to put words in your mouth.
When I sold it to Manu in I think it was 76, and I thought he was going to, no, wait a minute, it wasn't 1976. 1976 is when I leased it out to another fellow. I think it was in 2004, I believe, something like that. I sold it to Manu, and he was supposed to keep the theater open and, you know, run it. But it didn't turn out that way. So, and then after, in 2006, he paid me off, and then he sold it to the city after that.
It really is a shame. When I
Yeah.
moved here in '94, we would go there to see movies. It was still open
Oh,
in
yeah,
'94.
yeah.
Yeah, it's a shame. So
But
yes.
I enjoyed the theater business, and my
Yeah.
wife did so also, more so than I did, because I had a problem with the kids. And then before we moved out of the theater, we had a security guard out front. That wasn't a good thing, but we had to.
But good things came out of it. You met your wife there.
Yeah, that's right, at
So
the old
it's-
theater, and then
yeah.
we moved over to the new one.
So a special place in your heart for the
Yeah,
Granada.
right.
I think there are a lot of residents, including some of us here, who share that with you.
Yeah, I believe
Yeah,
so.
we would love to have that. Let's
Probably some of your pictures when you were kids are in that picture. I know you've probably seen it.
go. Well, I didn't
When
grow
we
up
had
here,
a
but
free
I.
show for the kids,
Oh, okay, okay,
packed.
packed.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm going to take you in a little slightly different direction now. So between 1923 and today, lots of things have happened in this country outside of Morgan Hill, but they impact Morgan Hill. World War II, the Vietnam War, the
Yeah.
whole civil rights movement. Any comments on how that impacted your life? Or
Well, I
any of
was
these?
drafted when the war started, and they took me in, and I believe it was in San Jose, and examined everybody, and went through everything. And I had 19. I think it was. I was 4 years old when I had double mastoids in both ears, and I had 2 bones taken out of both ears. And I couldn't hear, so they didn't draft me. So I worked on the farm at the Jackson Ranch also. Anyhow, and then from there, I worked on the Jackson Ranch up there with my dad. We were, excuse me.
Sure, certainly.
We worked on the Jackson Ranch up there, and before the dam was built, we drove up there in a '23 Model T, and we worked up there for quite a while. And I used to churn butter, milk 5 cows in the morning and churn it, and 5 cows in the evening and churn the milk. And they had sheep and they had pigs, and and we worked out there in the orchard also. My dad and I.
Your dad and I.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was a team of horses. And one was Tom, and no, one was Lou and Tom.
Your horses?
No, their horses.
Okay, Lou and Tom.
My dad had a gravel wagon with Gus Walsh, and he had a white team. That was earlier than when we went, and they used to haul. And Virgin East had a black team, and my dad had a white team, Tom and Jerry, and Virgin East had a black team. I don't know their name, and they used to haul gravel for Logos Road.
Tom and Jerry.
Yeah, and then they had the county had a tank there, and we used to pump water and fill the tank for sprinkling down Logos Road.
Do you enjoy that?
My family, well, I was just a young kid.
You had to do it.
I know.
Yeah.
So,
Okay, so all that was going on while the war and other things were happening.
yeah.
Did a lot of folks leave Morgan Hill during the 2 wars?
No, not really that I know of,
It
no.
was a small town, very small
Yeah,
town
it
at
was
that
still
point.
a small town for quite a while.
Yeah, yeah. When did the big growth spurt happen? In the 80s or?
Well, I believe it was right around just before well, I developed a piece of property on Logus Road. It was my uncle's. And they call it, it's Enderson Court. And 2.5 acres, and then a 16-acre parcel on the top of the hill. And it's it's all sold now. And I don't know, there's a few prune trees still out there, and the road's still there.
Did your family, I'm assuming your family ate a lot of what you were growing?
A lot of what?
What you were growing, your products, your crops.
Oh,
you
yeah,
would eat a
yeah,
lot of that. Besides the
years ago when the walnut, when the prune orchard flattened out, my dad and we planted walnut trees.
So you had walnuts, prunes. You did.
We had apricots on the hill, and
butter.
Also almonds.
So you ate all of that, nice
yeah,
and
we had
fresh.
that. Yeah,
and
we sold that and ate it.
Yeah. Let's see if I can phrase this correctly. Most folks now don't understand that. I mean, most of us just go to the store and buy.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's the impact on a family with the difference? What do you think? How do you see that? How are children being raised now, and what are they missing, or that you had that my children didn't have?
The children today, everything is given to them. But when I was growing up, there was nothing. People didn't have the money to give to their kids all the time. Matter of fact, when I was going to school all the time, they thought I was a peaked little kid, and they gave me free meals at school, but my mother was a good cook and everything, and I got good meals at home, but when I went to school I had to get free meals. I got free meals, and they weren't that great.
No, it's better at home.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't know, just grew up, and in school we had to walk from where I lived on the ranch on Logus Road, across properties all the way to the grammar school in downtown Morgan Hill. And there's 2 or 3 of the other kids also. There was the Masonic girls and a couple of other kids. We all used to walk to Morgan Hill, cut across all the properties downtown.
Is it safe to walk?
Yeah, at that time it was perfectly safe.
Perfectly safe, yeah.
Yeah.
Do you think that people were healthier then than they are now
I
in
believe
general?
so, I believe so, yes.
Yeah, you certainly seem a lot healthier.
Yeah.
Than a lot of other folks.
Yeah.
Tell us if you were to tell me 1 or 2 stories about Morgan Hill, either humorous or significant in your experience, what would you share with me?
I don't know.
What's the best story about Morgan Hill you can think of?
Well, I grew up in downtown Morgan Hill mostly, and other than going to school, when I worked at the theater most of the time, I just grew up downtown Morgan Hill. I was perched in that projection booth up there when my brother went to the Navy, I had a Navy cap on, and I was out there looking across the street at Browner's store across the street, and Aldi and Eddie's clothing store, and different stores right downtown.
So you were
Skeels
kind
Hotel.
of watching over everybody.
Well, sort of, yeah. It was only about a foot wide and about, I'd say, about 3 feet high.
But you were the original neighborhood watch.
Yes,
you knew what was going on.
Yeah,
downtown,
more or
right?
less downtown. Yeah.
Did people come to you? Other business folks come to you and ask you for your advice, your opinion about what was going on?
Not really, no.
No, but they knew you knew, huh?
Yeah.
They knew. You've shared a lot about your family's involvement in agriculture. Sounds like you were holding up this part of the county solo with all your activities.
Yeah.
from your perspective, what has been your family's greatest contribution, in addition to the agriculture, of course?
Well, my family, well, I don't know, you mean like planting an orchard?
Well, what would you say?
Of the downtown Morgan Hill?
Whatever
well,
you
we
think. What did Enderson family contribute to Morgan Hill?
To the Morgan Hill? Well,
yeah.
My wife was in the Chamber of Commerce, and I was always there at the theater, and I belonged to the Historical Society, and I belonged to several, 11 clubs in Morgan Hill, some of them. And
11 clubs. Tell me, can you think of some of the others? Can you give me the names of some of the other clubs?
Yeah, the Italian Catholic Federation, and one in Gilroy, the Italian Catholic Federation. I belong to the SIRS, Sons in Retirement, and I belong to the Morgan Hill Fish and Game, and I belong to the NRA, that's the Rifle Club, and the CRPA. I'm a life member. And
what is that, CRPA?
The California Rifle and Pistol Association.
Okay. Thank you.
I do shooting
and the
target
quick draw
shooting.
group. Don't forget that.
I go out to San Bruno and shoot trap all the time on weekends.
You still do that?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Oh, okay.
Barry and I belong to it. We go out there and I don't know, different things in Morgan Hill. I donate to the different parties, and once in a while I can afford it,
So you have been, in many ways, the heart of this city, of this little town. It's no longer a little town.
No, it isn't.
You and your
anymore,
family have kept that heart throbbing, pumping blood into the city. And how do you feel about that? You should be very proud.
Yeah,
Are you proud?
I am.
Yeah? Yeah, you look proud. You made quite a contribution.
I'm surprised they picked me of all people, but I used to, Mary Pena, I also say that she's part of it. And when they first had the Sinaloa in...
down the other way.
Yeah, in the 60s, Adolfo had on the radio. He had a radio station he would talk on. I went down there and I advertised the Granada Theater with him on the spoke on the mic.
Where was the radio station?
I don't know.
Do you remember?
It was a local station, I believe.
Okay.
And
not in town.
No, there wasn't any in town. No.
Yeah, we're interviewing Miss Pena as well.
Oh, yeah, I heard that.
Yeah. You're welcome to come and listen if you want. Listen to her stories. Okay. Is there anything else you'd like to share with us?
I don't know of anything. I probably skipped a few things, but
well, maybe our folks here would like to ask you a few things. I think it's fine. Is there anything that our audience would like to ask? Any more?
I'd like to know what rascal things you did as a young man, and when you stole your first kiss.
That was...
Oh, look at it. He remembers. Yeah. Oh.
That was back in I believe it was about 1948.
Is that the rascal or the kiss?
Huh?
Was that what did you do in 1948? The kiss?
1948 was my wife. I met her down there and everything. We got together. Yeah. Of course, I had girlfriends, but you don't want to hear about them.
Oh, yes, we do. wait. So did you steal the kiss in the projection room?
Pardon?
Where did you steal the kiss? In the projection room? Or where were you? Do you remember?
Well, no, downstairs.
By the candy counter?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And how many girlfriends did you have? We won't ask you the names.
Oh, I had several, but...
At the same time?
No, I wasn't married. It was when I was running around. I used to run around with a close friend of mine. His name was Arthur Ferranti. His wife works for the the Historical Society now.
Okay.
Ruby.
Okay.
Yeah, that was her first. That was her first husband,
Mm-hmm.
and we were close buddies. We worked on the prune ranch at the Raggios.
Mm-hmm.
Him and I. Excuse me.
Certainly. Any other questions? Anybody want?
And we hauled prunes and everything, and together on the ranch, and we went hunting together, and we went fishing together, and we did everything. When he went out with his girlfriend, I had to go with him. I don't know why, but he wanted me with him.
Oh, protection in
I
some
guess,
way?
whatever it was.
Who knows? Yeah. Yeah.
And we did a lot of fishing. We went up to Oregon and fished, salmon fishing, him and I, and
Sounds like you.
and Irene also. When we got married, we went up there too.
You love the outdoors. You love
Yes,
the
I do.
environment,
Yes,
and
I do.
I'm assuming that
I-
you love protecting it as well.
Yeah.
It sounds like it. Yeah. Let me, Mr. Anderson, what if I were to ask you for advice for my children or for the children of our audience here? What would you tell us? What words would you leave with us
Well,
about life?
I tell you to take care of your children as best you can, and teach them what you can, and try to keep them out of trouble when they grow up and be teenagers. When they start being teenagers, when they're younger, they love school and everything, and then all of a sudden, when they turn teenagers, they kind of lose interest in school, and the best thing to do is to try to keep them interested in school and things to do at home, and keep them, because a lot of parents work out and, and their kids run loose on them. That's probably a lot of our problems today. And it's best to keep your children, keep in touch with your children at all times, and teach them what's right and wrong, and the things they should be doing.
Sounds like you did that for the city of Morgan Hill from your projection room.
Yes.
You watched over those kids, didn't you?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, when I was growing up, I got a '55 Chevy that I still have, and 13 children learned how to drive in that Chevrolet on the ranch. He's one of them.
Yeah. Tell us about your nephew's here today. The camera can't see him, but he's here today, and you love your nephew.
He's one of the smartest guys I know when it comes to a computer or anything else. He's running the whole branch he works for right now.
Yeah, and he loves you.
And
can
they
tell.
have problems. He's on the phone telling them what to do and everything else, and I can't believe how he can do all those things. But he does it.
Well, I think if I were to ask him, he would give you a lot of that credit, that you had a big part in his life.
Yes, he grew up on the ranch, and he was a very nice kid. He never got into trouble one bit.
Good.
Yeah,
Mr. Anderson, thank you very much for your time.
I appreciate it.
If there's anything else that you would like us to know, we'll come back and talk to you. I'll be happy to do that.
Thank you.
And I know this has been a long interview, and there's probably 10,000 other questions I'd like to ask you.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, because you've had a wonderful life. You're part of this community. The community's acknowledging your contribution, and we're very grateful to you.
Most of the things I talked about I mixed it up around too much, I believe.
You did fine. You did fine. No, we wanted the mix. Because 80-something years, there's a lot that goes on in that time. But clearly, from a newcomer's perspective, your attachment to the Granada Theater will always remain as part of Morgan Hill, and that Granada has been the center of this town. Right?
Matter of fact, the wife and I never got. We took a vacation one time and to Tennessee for a 50th wedding anniversary for one of the Smith family that Barry's part of, and the sound system went out. And we had to get those brothers that had the radio shop in town had to come in and put a speaker up. Somebody flipped a switch that wasn't supposed to do.
At the Granada.
Yeah, and PT 109.
Oh yeah, yeah.
That
the
was
movie.
the movie that was on at the time.
So that was in the 60s.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. And so they called you all the way to Tennessee to take care of it, or
No, they didn't call me.
No, they didn't call you.
But I heard about it. I forget who called me. Somebody called me. And I didn't know what the situation was, but the radio shop in Morgan Hill put speakers out for the audience.
They took
And
care
it
of that.
continued on, yeah.
Yeah. Do you ever go downtown and walk by the theater, or?
Yeah, a lot of times.
yeah.
I've been down there quite a few times, yes.
Yeah, I know there's been lots of pictures taken of you.
Yeah, we go down to the Rosie's at the bar, and Rosie's at the beach, that is.
Yes, Rosie's at the bar. Yeah, there you go.
Bar,
Yeah.
well, I'm
Yeah.
not much of a drinker, but I'll have a drink once in a while, but not
Yeah.
very often.
Okay. Thank you again very much, and
welcome.
I'll probably see you at Rosie's at the bar.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you.
Okay.